It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to this episode of Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill. And today, I actually really love this topic. And I feel like it's going to be a little bit disorganized and dysfunctional one because it is actually unhinged week for both of us, but also because I feel like this is like all encompassing of what Jess and this is like where we want everyone to be in their health and fitness and this version, right, of like maturing in your fitness journey. And that's really what we want to talk about. And what sparked this topic was I'll let you tell the story, but Jess went to a new gym recently and it kind of got us going in a conversation about like where we are now in our health and fitness journeys and like where we used to be. So I'll let you tell that story.
Cool. So I subbed for another trainer that I'm good friends with, and I did a few one-on-one sessions in this new gym. And it's a cool local gym. Like they're actually partnering with us and sending people our way for nutrition and stuff. But it's very much like a bodybuilding power lifter type vibe where people are there because they want to show off their muscles and they want to like ego lift as heavy as they can and stuff. And again, there's like value to pushing yourself. But it was kind of funny because I think mentally I reverted back a little bit where I was like, ooh, do I look like a trainer anymore? Like I have different goals. I have had 2 kids. Right now, I'm in a season that I'm happy to just maintain and work out 3 days a week. And like I spend 15 minutes before every single lifting day doing mobility so that I can lift heavier without getting hurt. And it's like, I don't know, it was a little out of my element because again, I used to lift how they lift and just for physique. And now I lift so much differently that it was kind of funny because again, we also were there where it's like, man, that clientele is not necessarily my target market, right? I'm not looking to train people for physique competitions, but how cool would it be for us to be able to influence people who are in that phase of their health journey to eventually become more holistic with their health and their movement patterns and their relationship with food and all the things. So, and I think I texted Jill about this and she kind of had a similar experience in her gym in Boise. Yeah. And so, anyway, this kind of led to us like talking about maturing in the weight room looks like blank. Mm-hmm. And Jill did a cool post a couple weeks ago. We got really good feedback from it. We got a lot of messages from people who have maintained and sustained long-term fitness saying like, this is it. This is what it's all about. Like I had a friend say she shared it with so many people at her work who always talk about fad diets. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff about like, okay, what does maturing in fitness and like looking at the whole person health actually look like? And again, some of these things you guys might hear and be like, yeah, but that's not going to help me physique wise. And it's like, no, actually, if you focus on health first, physique will follow. And you'll be healthier for it versus if you focus on physique first, yeah, you could look good, but you also might have some serious dysfunction if you do it the wrong way. So, okay. Do we want to start with like weight room stuff and lifting stuff or food stuff? Yeah. Or I feel like there's so much
gym stuff. I mean, like specifically in that post, I had put like 7 gym days became 4. And honestly, I just started to like, I don't know, by the time this comes out, this post will already be out, but I just started writing like a post today because I was like, wow, I was kind of like doing notes for this podcast and like just reflecting on where I am now and where I used to be. And in the post, I was like looking back at like old pictures of myself. And I was like, it's wild to think that I was so lean and I thought that carrying my cooler bag everywhere full of like bro foods, right? Like chicken and rice and broccoli and whatever. Like I thought that was the picture of health. And what I didn't realize is that 1, my level of leanness and number on the scale did not correlate to my health. It certainly didn't translate in terms of my mental health because that was in the absolute gutter at that point in my life. But also I felt so much pressure to be in the gym and to look a certain way. And I didn't realize like relationship with food and all of these other components, like saying no to every social outing and avoiding birthday parties because I was afraid to binge eat, like so many problems. And there was genuinely at that point really nothing healthy about what I was doing when I was competing in bodybuilding and in that season of my life. I mean, I would binge eat, I would binge drink, and then like calculate the calories that I had and try to burn them off the next day. Like it was really, I love the messages that we get now about like our viewpoint on health, but I'm like, man, this is where I came from. And this is like what I'm trying to prevent people from having to go through is obviously why we do what we do. But yeah, let's start because I did 7 days a week at one point.
And a lot of this, I think, is understanding the adaptations to your body and how those adaptations come about, because a lot of macro coaches and fitness coaches, and especially competitive bodybuilding coaches, are looking at, okay, more, because the harder we go, the faster we get results type deal. They are not thinking mental health consequences or long-term adaptations metabolically. So I thought I needed to work out. I was in the same boat of just grinding all the time. It wasn't because I thought I need to burn more than I ate, but I was like, oh, exercise is so healthy. I need to keep my heart rate up. I need to be sore all the time, whatever. Not realizing that if I did more effective movement patterns, I could yield the same results, actually working out way less. And that recovery time in between is important too. So like if you just grind down your body and you don't actually have appropriate recovery to match it, your body actually won't adapt and get better to it, like in response to that stressor. So now I lift 3 to 4 days a week. And again, there's a behavioral component too. Some people I might start with only 2 days a week. Could 3 or 4 be better for them physically? Yeah. But realistically, if 2 is all that they are going to be consistent with, let's start there and then we can build. But from a physique standpoint, I have people who have competed in the past who come to me who look fit and they're like, wait, you're making me do less? And I'm like, yeah, but we're going to talk about how you're squatting and how you're deadlifting, and we're going to actually do it right. And we're going to take rest days in between. And their physiques transform and they're surprised because they're doing less hours in the gym, but more effective workouts. So I would say like understanding the desired adaptation of every exercise, not just doing more for the sake of more, understanding and tracking volume, like in each workout and in each week. Like, are we hitting an appropriate number of heavy sets per week per muscle group, or are you just doing more and more because you think more is better? Are you tracking that volume so that you can progress over time, or are you just doing random stuff every day? And again, you don't have to be this meticulous about it if your desired outcome is going to a workout class for fun. But I think where the miscommunication is people's inputs are misaligned with their expectations. So they are like, I'm going to CrossFit 7 days a week. Why isn't my physique changing? And it's like, okay, that's why. Like, that's a good exercise modality if your intention is high intensity or a fun group class. But if your desired outcome is physique change, we need to change the inputs that we were doing to match it. So I think understanding inputs and expectations and like owning your choices and the consequences to those choices, healthy or unhealthy, I'll put in quotes, is really important. Like, if I choose, because this is a choice of mine, to order takeout and have it because it's a convenient family dinner option, like takeout Chinese food while me and my husband are working on our house with our kids because I don't have to cook, like, cool. I'm fine with the outcomes that are associated with it. I'm not tomorrow going to bitch that the scale went up a pound.
Well, and it's also, I think too, when you're in a place of trusting yourself more, and I think that also is part of maturing in fitness, not being petrified about every move you make being right or wrong, but saying like, sometimes we choose to eat out and it's out of convenience. And sometimes it's straight up out of laziness on my part. But I don't complain about what happens the next day. We ate Thai food recently and I felt like shit the next day, honestly. And I was like, can't really complain. I know what I did to make myself feel this way. I knew that when I made that choice, but I think it's also too about when you trust yourself and you know you're making healthy decisions most of the time around that. Like, Thai food is an indulgence. I don't do that every week.
Also, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. There's very healthy Thai food too. So when me and Jill are saying this, it's because her and I are downing a whole order of like drunken noodles or pad Thai. It's not because we were eating, like, I have a friend whose mother is Thai and like the way that they eat is mostly vegetables and whole
Very
foods and
healthy,
coconut milk and healthy.
No, I'm
and
like
then
getting like
and then
fried
they
orange
share.
chicken.
Yeah. And then they share the pasta dish as a family. They're not just eating that as their meal. So when we're saying that, we're saying like doing that in an unhealthy way. I just want to clarify. Continue.
Yes. No, we're eating 4 servings in one. Because Jess and I like to eat, but yeah, it's also that I prefer where I am in my health journey to make my meals at home. For the most part, right, I love a good night out to dinner and whatever, but for the most part, I choose to make my meals at home because I like the way that I feel when I know exactly what's in my food. That's not feasible for everyone, and that's okay. That's just where I'm at. But yeah, 100%. But obviously, I know we veered away from the gym part, but from a gym standpoint, I remember that spending 2 hours a day in the gym. I would go 6 or 7 days a week. And I convinced myself that it was because I loved the gym. And I can't say that wasn't partially true, but I think it was genuinely because I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't, or I was punishing myself for a decision the day or two before. I would spend 2 hours in there. And it's funny, I wasn't spending 2 hours in there killing myself. I was spending 2 hours in there like acting like I was the fucking mayor of this gym also. Like I was talking to everybody. I was saying hi. Like also, and then I complained about not having time, right? Like I was willy-nillying my workouts. I was going through the motions and like looking back, I'm like, God, I wasted so much time there. It wasn't even that I was like actually working out the whole time.
So the hours, you just made 2 points. Like one, the time spent in the gym, the hardness or soreness of your workouts, both are not correlated to effectiveness. But 2, I think there's a dopamine hit component that you just touched on where sometimes we're like, no, I need that. That's my me time. That's my mental health time. And it's like, you're just addicted to not slowing down.
Yes.
Like a lot of times I see this from our clients who are type A go-getters. They do great at work. They're very successful women. And they're like, no, I need this time. And it's like, you need to breathe. You need to rest. You need to meditate. Like, it's not going to be fun. You're going to feel like it's not productive, but that's actually what your nervous system and your body needs so that you can get better results. If that's what you're saying, if that's what you're complaining that you're not getting, right? From a physique standpoint or from a health standpoint, right? So a lot of times I think it's that addiction to having to go and be stimulated all the time because we're like conditioned to be like that.
You're addicted to those stressors and feeling like you have to do something. And that's exactly it. And that's exactly where I was. I felt like I had to do something. So for me, doing something was being in the gym and doing a couple reps on a lat pull down and then talking to someone and then doing a couple reps of this. And I just had a call with somebody yesterday who is a new client of ours now. And she leads a very busy lifestyle. And she randomly had a day off yesterday on a Wednesday when we had our call. And she was like, I don't know what to do with myself. And after she described her schedule, and I was like, I'm actually going to give you your first assignment as a new client. Go outside, sit in the grass, do not have a device with you, get some sun in your eyeballs. And I want you to go through your 5 senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? Don't taste anything out there, but you know what I mean? Go through all of your senses because that's a really good check in with yourself. And I used to be like, I don't have time for this shit. And it is actually fascinating when you do things like that, where your brain goes. Like you start.
And how much more time you get. Like when we lived in St. John, the amount of, like we talk about, okay, the first time we lived there for only a year. And it felt like 5 years. We still have connections with those people as if they are our family. And we were only there for a year. But it's because we are present with people every single day. We're not on your phone. You're not on a computer binge watching Netflix. You're going for hikes and you're sitting in nature. And like time goes slower when you are all there. And it's going to be uncomfortable. Like it's outside of our norm right now, but it's so good. We talk about stressors and adaptations, but like exercise is a healthy stressor if you have that recovery to match it so that you can adapt to that healthy stressor. If you only pump your body with stressors, even good ones like exercise, you will not adapt in a healthy way. It'll just break you down and you'll burn out.
And actually, I did not write down anything about this in my notes for today. But you just made me think of it. And like so many women come to me and say, I want to take care of myself, but I have to take care of my family and my kids need this. And I feel like I don't have time or I can't prioritize myself or I don't want to lose time with them. And I'm like, hold on a second. We're losing sight of this here because you're telling me you don't want to lose time with them, but you're also telling me you can't physically keep up with them in the yard. You're telling me that you're so stressed at the end of the day, you don't want anyone to talk to you. How is that a productive relationship with your kids? And I'm homeschooling Mason. We're 3 weeks in. It's been a little bit of an adjustment, but I'm spending a lot more. I've had to rework my schedule. I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get my steps in or to do some admin work. Whereas normally I get up at like 7 to 8, right? But I've had to be really intentional with my time because I was like, this is a whole nother job I'm inserting throughout my day. And I've had I was like, this is education. Like I can't half-ass this. So I've had very designated time throughout the week for this. And I said to my husband, I'm like, wow, having this much one-on-one time with him during the day has improved our relationship so much. And that sounds silly because it's just like mom and kid. And of course I love him and he loves me and whatever. But I'm like, he is like such a pleasure to have a conversation with. And you can really talk about anything. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like I'm learning even more about him as my kid and we're just doing math, and I think that's maturing in fitness, right? It's like I was like, I got to go to the gym. I got to do this. I got to do this. And my idea of like spending time with my kid at that point was just like being in the same room when I was going to the gym 7 days a week. And I was like, look, I'm here, I'm keeping them alive. Like, and it just was like, not because I was so stressed. And I honestly, in 2024, have had the thought process of like, what's the rush for everything? I'm constantly rushing to do everything. Nothing is like going to implode if you don't do it as fast as possible. And honestly, that's like driving places. I used to be like, get out of my way. Right. And I think I heard a podcast and I probably brought it up on here before, but there was this podcast that said, like, if you're getting pissed off on the road and somebody's like, quote, in your way and driving slower, what is your sense of entitlement that you think where you're going is more important than where they're going? I know this is a little bit off topic, but it's just those types of things that I think help you like get the full picture of like what health and fitness should be. It should be fun and it should make you feel good. And it's not a negotiable for me to work out and make healthy choices because my time with my kid is worth me stepping away for 45 minutes and taking care of myself because I want to be here for him and keep up with him in the yard and play sports with him until I'm 80, right? Like you're telling me in your 40s that you're having a hard time getting up and down off the ground or you can't run or you're too tired or irritable after work to play with your kids. And here's your reality check on the podcast for today, right? Like that hits hard when you can't be there for your kids in the capacity that you should be. So yeah, I didn't write anything about this actually, but I think that's I
think that's great. Yeah. And a good exercise you can do is you can write down like how you feel when you do different things. Like I had this conversation with a client of ours who is like, I know I just shouldn't be staying up, binge watching Netflix but like I'm doing everything for my kids. She's a single mom and then she's burnt out and then finally it's her time, right? So she spends 3 hours watching a show. And I'm like, dude, I totally relate. And I do the same thing sometimes. And I had her journal it for a week. And I was like, write down the next day how productive you feel after a day where you don't get enough sleep. How connected you feel with your kids. And then not because you should or shouldn't do anything, but it may start to make you want to go to bed earlier and maybe only watch a half an episode of something instead of 3 episodes, because you'll notice you actually feel like you have more time in the day. You feel way more productive when your body's healthy. Like things just start to happen a little easier. You don't have so much anxiety about every little task when you're well rested and nourishing your body with food and all those things. So I just had her journal it to start to notice that pattern on her own, and realize like, oh my gosh, you're right. It feels like I have more time. Like this is crazy. So, okay. So
that's like sleep, like looking at fitness. That is your health. That is your fitness. Like, listen, Jess and I love, obviously you guys know, to watch all the shows and all the things. But like that's also part of your health. And this is all encompassing a part of recovery, right? Like Jess talked about recovery. That was definitely something I didn't prioritize that I think I've matured with, in terms
and with
of
the go.
Yeah.
Like caffeine is another one that ties right into that. So like I used to take pre-workouts all the time. I still am absolutely a caffeine. PM. Yeah, I'm still a caffeine addict because I created poor habits early in my fitness journey. And I go through these cycles of being on or off of it, which is not the healthiest thing. But I thought, the more energy I have, the more exercise I can do, the more calories that I'll burn. And it's like, okay, that's cool until your body backfires and crashes, because hormonally that's horrible long term. Now, I was early in my 20s, so I could get away with it and not have the health consequences until I did crash. And then it was like, oh my gosh, now it's dire that I cut out these things. So again, and caffeine on the other end of the spectrum would be something like mindfulness practices, breathing exercises, guided meditation. I thought that was an utter waste of my time. I was in a Tibetan yoga class in college and I was like, oh my gosh, it was an intensive 2 hours, 3 days a week. And I was like, 2 hours of turning off my brain? Like, what a waste of time.
Yeah.
Until I started to physically feel the effects where I was like, whoa, I'm actually slowing down and getting things done because I'm able to turn off the noise in my brain because I'm practicing a skill. So like, again, doing less versus always doing more, I think is a huge one in terms of maturing in fitness. Okay. Following more effective workouts versus just doing more or thinking you need to burn more. Taking more rest in between sets instead of thinking you need to keep your heart rate up or burn calories or whatever. Taking more rest in between sets allows you to execute the next set more effectively and with more weight. So you will get better results. That's a big one where I used to be like, what are these people doing just standing around in the gym? Like there was a couple power lifters who worked out at the gym that I trained at and they take like 5-minute rests between every set, but it's because they're lifting so heavy on that next set. During my big compound lifts, you will often see me taking 90-second to 3-minute rest periods so that I can actually push myself and maintain good form during those bigger lifts.
Yep. No, huge. And I mean, I certainly neglected that and I superset everything because I thought, God, I literally remember getting off the freaking leg extension and doing like jump squats when I used to work out every single.
I would do that all the time.
My heart rate up. And I'm like, what are you doing?
And there's nothing wrong with that if it's programmed strategically every now and then in a certain phase. Like I still every now and then will put supersets in for a specific intention to put higher volume on your quads or whatever. But most of the time, that's not how we're lifting.
I was doing 7 days a week, not sleeping and for months and months and months.
Another one I have written down is now maturing in fitness, proactively practicing mobility and myofascial release to improve my movement patterns during my reps, as opposed to reactively foam rolling or using the Theragun as a pain relief method, and then going right back to my shitty movement patterns that caused the pain in the first place.
Yeah.
I think that's so super important for not only to improve your lifts and not have injuries, but just like long-term sustainability. I don't want to have to stop when I'm 50 because I have pain or I've hurt my knees from moving poorly for the last however many years.
Well, and also, like tying back to your original, like feeling in the gym recently, when I went to a gym in Boise, I didn't know it was a bodybuilding gym. And I had just texted you actually and said, hey, I'm following this new like functional program because I had to take time off from the gym and I was like getting back in and I was like, I'm going to just like have fun in the gym. I don't really have like a specific goal in there at the moment. I immediately was like, do a bro workout. Like everyone else is doing a bro workout. And I was like, I can't do this. I had this programmed and, there was like a little mini like circuit at the end of like rowing and I forget what else was on there, but I was like, oh my God, this is like not even how I normally work out. So I was doing a workout that like, I wasn't even comfortable with myself because it was new. I had never done it before. Doing it in Boise was the first time I was doing it on top of being in this new gym. And I felt the same way Jess did. I was like, oh my God. And I had to like look around for a PVC pipe to do my mobility stuff in the beginning. And I was like, oh my God, this thing's like collecting cobwebs in the corner. And I was like, whatever, I'm just going to do what I have programmed. Like what do I care if anybody says anything to me? So I had that same feeling. But in terms of like that specifically, what you just said with stability and mobility, it carries so much value in your day-to-day life. And I used to avoid it because I was like, what's the point? Because my focus was on burning calories and changing my physique, right? And that was it. That was the only reason that I went to the gym. And like Jess said, I had all these shitty movement patterns. I actually like had to get dry needling and had to get nerve blocks because I was hurt, like not taking care of like all of that, right, in my day-to-day life. And I was like, why is this happening in my 20s? Obviously, I know now, but it carries so much value in your day-to-day life. And I value that so much now to make sure I'm able to work out in the gym the way that I want to and be healthy and be strong. I'm not going to let something like that takes me 10 to 15 minutes a couple times a week prevent me from like, I don't want to be old and hunched over and immobile. And I care that's higher value for me at this point. And that's my way of maturing in fitness from what I used to do.
And valuing range of motion and form over weight when you are in your lifts also. So it's like we are doing mobility on what our current gaps are, because everybody's unique in that place, right? Somebody might have tight hips, another person might have tight ankles, another person can't connect with their glutes, whatever the thing is. But once you access that range, actively being intentional about getting as deep with good form as I can in a squat versus going to 90 degrees and lifting as heavy as I can to because it feels good at the gym ego wise. Like, not only are you limiting your mobility if you only do that, but you're also limiting your gains because now I can spend more time under tension in that squat. So really focusing on that. I focused on that probably for like a year without ever having physique goals, and my physique changed like crazy. And I was like, this is so cool, because I used to only focus on physique and it was so hard to change. So, okay. Also going along with that, like both of us used to prioritize physique goals. And again, we're happy with our physiques. We still work out and lift because we like feeling good in our bodies. It's just not the primary driver. Another one, and this was as a trainer, I used to think this, is that certain moves are so pointless.
Oh my gosh, this is a good one.
Okay.
I have so many thoughts.
Now I'm like, oh, wow, I am so dumb. I was so dumb. And it's like, no move is bad or useless. It's all a matter of context and what adaptation that person is looking to get out of that movement. So I'll give an example of myself. Like back when I first started lifting, I would do like, I call it the good girl, bad girl machine, but adductors, abductors, because I was like, ooh, I want hot legs or whatever. And then once I started actually becoming educated as a trainer, I was like, that's so dumb. That barely impacts your physique at all. Like doing adductors doesn't do shit for your physique. Right. Instead, I'll squat and I'll deadlift. Then I had babies and I was like, whoa, my pelvis, there's so much instability in my hips. I need to add in some stability moves with adductors. I need to relearn basic diaphragmatic breathing. Like I'm spending time at the gym laying on the floor and breathing while holding my stomach. Like if I looked at somebody else doing that, I'd be like, what a dumb trainer. They're not going to get them any results. Those aren't big muscle groups. But it's like, okay, I'm not doing those moves for muscle development. I'm doing them for function. And then it'll allow me to do my big lifts better and safer and everything. So understanding the adaptation that you want and understanding if your inputs are aligning with those goals is still very, very important, right? If somebody tells me like, I don't know why my glutes aren't growing, I'm always doing stair climber kickbacks, I'm going to have an opinion on it. Okay. Like if you have aesthetic goals, there is an effective or an ineffective way to do it. If you have endurance goals, there's an effective or an ineffective way to do it. You need to know that your inputs are aligning with the goal that you want and the outcome that you want.
I mean, I get on 10 to, 30 calls a week with people, or they're in my DMs or whatever. And I would say, actually, I say 99% of the time when somebody comes to me, I'm like, I can guarantee that your training is not yielding the result that you want and that it needs to be changed. Well, I don't even really need to have that conversation with you. I always want to know what you're doing, but I already know that needs to be fixed. And that's not saying we're the best and we're amazing. It's just most people and adults don't train based on what their goal is. Like they just don't actually know that. I certainly didn't or wouldn't know it if I wasn't a trainer and like seeking out that education.
And a good trainer, because there's a lot of trainers out there just being like, we're just going to do something different and fun. And they're appeasing their client instead of educating their client. And again, it's not that I need to tell you every single muscle and joint and ligament. It's like, no, I need to educate you in like, here's why I'm having you do this, dude, because this is what the outcome's going to be versus, that cool workout you saw on Instagram where they're doing a one-legged hop while they crunch. Like, cool, that sounds fun, but do you want a fun workout or do you want physique outcomes? Like, it's your choice and I will support you, but I'm not going to give you a workout and change it up every day just for fun. Like that's a crappy trainer.
Yeah, I actually, so I was going to say on that topic, you said there's like not a dumb movement and everything needs context. I semi disagree because I used to pull off what any fucking Instagram influencer was doing and think I need to do this. And I mean, I was doing kickbacks in like on the dumbest machines. And it just, I was like, what is this even actually working? Like, we're always trying, my point of that saying that is, if you see something that you've like not done before in the gym, or somebody is using equipment in a different way, you one, need the context to know like, okay, what is this person's goal here? But also you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like squats, deads, all of that stuff is really all that you need. That's also maturing in fitness. I thought, I almost believe like trick your muscles kind of thing, but I thought I had to always be doing something different. Or something else that I would do is, even if I had coaches and they programmed something for me, like if they programmed, and that's not to say I worked with the best coaches ever, but if they programmed like barbell deadlift for me, and I was like, I don't feel like doing that, I'm going to do dumbbell. Like, there is a reason that we're programming this in a certain way, and there's going to be different tempos and different rests, and it's going to be in a different part of your workout, right? Where it might be at the beginning or it might be in the middle. And not to say like, obviously you can swap things around once in a while if your gym is crazy and you're trying to get through it or whatever, but there really should be, if you have a good trainer, a rhyme or a reason to the way that you're
for every single movement, rest period, rep range, all of the things. If your trainer cannot tell you why or what the value is of an exercise, like that's just a big red flag. So, okay. So understanding the inputs and expectations, owning your choices. So we jokingly talked about this, but my oldest daughter, we had a moment with food where I was like, this is horrible, but it's such a win in terms of her relationship with her body and her choices. Owning your choices, whether they are good or bad. So Callie was like, okay, Mom, I know that it might make my stomach hurt and I might have diarrhea like I did last time, but I want all the cookies. And I'm like, right on. Like, you are understanding inputs versus expectations. As long as you don't eat all the cookies and then whine to me for 3 days that your stomach hurts, then you know what? That's a learning lesson that you've just learned, right? So like, I think that is another big one. I had a client this week. I screenshotted it as a win to send our other coaches. She used to drink a lot, and she, in her win, said, hey, I drank a few too many, more than I thought I wanted to this weekend when we were camping. But it was a really cool moment. I don't feel bloated. I'm not stressed out that the scale went up a couple pounds because I know it's just water retention from drinking. Immediately the next day, I started on my exercise and I had a really good social time with my friends. I don't have regrets. Whereas before, she would do the same behavior over and over and then be like, I have so much guilt and so much shame. And it's like, we need our behaviors and our headspace to align here, buddy. Okay. So, and again, that's not something you can just like turn a switch on or off. Like, we've spent years working together to reprogram her brain on that. But eventually getting your inputs and your expectations to align is huge. If you're like, I do everything right, and then we start to track your stuff and we're like, well, you do everything right for 3 weeks and then you burn out and then you do nothing for 2 months and then you do everything, like, that's not appropriate inputs for what you think your results should be. Like, let's be realistic with ourselves.
Yeah, no, I think that's powerful. And I also think, I actually just did a story about this on my Instagram yesterday about how like people, there are mistakes that people make when it was about fat loss specifically, but really just in general. And one of them is like cherry picking advice. So you can't just decide, like you find something on the internet and it goes with your current like narrative. And to explain what I mean by that, one of the best examples I can think of is cortisol is a hot topic, right? And we understand it very well. We work with women who have high cortisol, low cortisol, literally have like all the things, right? Actual like conditions they were born with, anything across the board. And so many women come to me and say, I have high cortisol, so I just walk right now. And I want to bang my head on a wall, because if you have high one, you don't know. If you're like having stress in your life is normal, generally speaking, that's just the way that the cookie crumbles. I would love for everyone to not work 40 hours, have enough money to support their lifestyle, and sing Kumbaya for 2 hours every day. That's not the way being a human is for us, right? There's going to be stressors in your life. It's not about removing them. There's two parts to this. It's not about removing them. It's learning how to tolerate them in a healthy way and manage your stress in a healthy way. The last stressor that you need to be removing, even if you have high cortisol, is strength training. For the love of God, that is not the right stressor to pull. So I think and obviously I could go on a whole tangent, and I probably will on that topic specifically, but the cherry picking of advice is the purpose of that statement. You can't.
And a lot of times it's because you're looking at somebody who looks fit. It goes back to the you doing a stair climb or kickback or whatever. It's like you see somebody on the internet that looks fit and you're like, oh yeah, I'll do what they do. And it's like, whoa, they gave you no context. They know nothing about your life. Why are they doing this? So like last week I posted a video of me doing an exercise that I would call pretty advanced. I've maybe programmed it for like one person in-person training, never for a virtual client. But I said, why I'm programming this is because of my shoulder mobility. And everybody messaged me like, I'm going to start adding that. And I was like, wait, time out. I didn't get context. I said why I'm doing this. I would not recommend that. And then I did a whole training on like, do these things, please, because it's way safer for the average person. That's so important. And it's so nearly impossible to get if you are only following stuff from snippets on social media or trends or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't cherry pick like that.
Yeah.
And then I think this is a big one, and I know this kind of spawns into a lot of other topics and lessons here, but the scale. Like this is probably one of the hardest lessons to learn, and one of the biggest ones when it comes to maturing in fitness is that you have to detach from that number. I'm not saying YOLO and let it go. I'm saying that the scale by itself is a pretty irrelevant piece of data. It has to be used with other measures, right? How you feel, how you sleep, your energy, your measurements, how your clothes fit, how you feel just day to day, right? Like physically, your digestion. There are so many things. And this is why our check-in process is very in-depth, probably almost borderline annoying for some of our clients if they're not used to reflecting that heavily on a weekly basis. But the scale carries so much more value, or so little value compared to what your value is as a human. And you have to stop letting it dictate your day and your life and how you feel. And I've had so many clients that check in and they're like, oh, I felt good doing this check-in until I weighed myself. I'm like, then stop fucking weighing yourself. You just told me you feel better, your clothes fit better, you're sleeping better. And all of a sudden, this like cube on the floor has ruined your entire day. And I think yeah, go ahead.
You made a good point there also saying, I want to clarify, you made a great point about saying my clothes fit better. We are not saying healthy at every size as long as you feel good mentally. We are not saying that. We're saying there's also good weight. You can put on good tissue. You can improve your bone density and add lean muscle tissue and be actually healthier and feel better physically and look better physically too at a higher weight than you might think. I share this of my own journey when I used to be the smallest I've ever been. I'm only 5 feet tall, but I got down to like 102 pounds and I was wearing extra small everything and whatever. I am a bigger pant size now. I am 20 pounds heavier. Like my norm now is around 124. I look really freaking good and healthy, and I've had 2 kids, and I'm able to maintain better. The outcomes metabolically are, it's way easier for me to maintain. I can eat a lot more food, and I look damn good. Nobody would think I gained that much because I look almost the same. I just look more toned now because I have more muscle underneath, but it's because it's good weight. Muscle weight is good weight. We're not just saying, oh yeah, eat whatever you want because weight doesn't matter. It's weight is not an indication of health. Leanness is not the only indication of health or healthy weight.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, like something that took me a while to learn and balance out for myself is, when I was in the gym 7 days a week, I cold turkeyed. I woke up one day and was like, I'm sick of this pressure from the world and from myself. And I went full hermit and I didn't do anything for months. 4 months, I burnt myself out so much that all I did was sit at home. I was lazy. I quit my job. And that was 3 months of it was rough. And I spent a good probably 1.5 to 2 years after that trying different things, like trying powerlifting, hiring different coaches. And I was like, just nothing would stick for me. And it's because I was chasing a certain physique and a number on the scale still. When I went to powerlifting, I swear to God, I don't even know if I've said these words out loud ever until this moment. The only reason that I chose powerlifting as an option is because I thought that because I was binge eating, that if I just at least power lifted and was eating as much food as I was, that I could still find some balance with my physique. Like that is, I didn't choose powerlifting because I thought it would be fun. I was like, I'm binge eating and
Power lifters eat a lot.
And they eat a lot of food. So maybe something good will come of this. And it didn't really fix any of, it didn't fix that obviously, but I didn't fix any of that until I stopped trying to diet. I had to stop dieting and stop caring about the scale. And you can't stop caring like YOLO, like I did. I had to genuinely work out for my health. I was like, I have to redefine this or I'm just going to be like miserable forever. And all of that said, going beyond the scale, going beyond like leanness doesn't determine your health, all of that, the actual pursuit and who, this is really corny, but I'm going to say it. The actual like pursuit of all of this like lifestyle. It's not that there's like some end goal that you're getting to where you just like maintain and you live life and you're just like floating like a butterfly with a healthy metabolism forever. Jess and I still work really freaking hard and we still have times where we are like, I got to get my shit together, you know? But I feel good working out 3 days a week. I feel good prioritizing my nervous system. I just told Jess, I'm like, I am going to change the world because I have slept 8 hours every day for the last 2 weeks. I was like, I am unstoppable. And we put way too much value and we're putting all of our eggs in this scale basket. And like our clients, when they go through this transformation, it's not because they're not happier and more confident on the other side because the scale is lower. It's because they have kept a commitment to themselves and they have healthy inputs. And the people in their lives are like, wow, you really like saw this through and stuck to it. And they're confident in their work and they're, you know, more present with their kids and their spouse. Like that's where their wins come from. It's not like, yeah, it's not, actually a lot of our clients have a certain scale weight goal when they come to us. I would say almost none of them hit it. And it's not because we're not making progress. It's because their definition of what they thought they wanted look totally different because we're adding muscle, we're adding good weight. Yes, we're dropping body fat and all.
We have a lot of women who will message us and say like, hey, can you still hear me? I think my headphones are off. Sorry. I have a lot of women who have messaged and been like, this is wild. I'm fitting in the same pants I fit into 30 pounds ago, but I've only lost 15 pounds. What's going on? So it's like they're realizing, oh, wow, body composition has changed completely, even though the scale didn't go down as much as I thought was my desired weight, right? And it's because we're putting on health. We're actually changing their health more by adding that healthy muscle tissue and changing their habits.
Yes.
Okay, so let's switch to food for a little bit. This is funny because like I took a nutrition class in college and I honestly was like, this teacher's so dumb. Like I was so entitled in my little bubble of what I thought I knew at the time because I was very lean. I was like 15% body fat and I was very conscious of physique and I ate low fat everything, like low fat Greek yogurt, plain, berries. I didn't have any refined carbs. So I was eating nutrient dense, but I was eating very low calorie. And I remember her talking about a study where they used like chocolate milk as a post-workout thing for runners or something. And I was like, that's so dumb. Why are we using whole milk? There's no added value. Like you get the same protein with less calories, whatever. Cause I thought macros were it and calories were it, right? So I'm like, I know how to get the highest protein and the lowest calories possible. Again, not understanding the long-term metabolic adaptation that at some point your body adapts to that. And what are you going to do when you want to eat like a normal person? You're going to gain back more weight. So same thing happens to the women who work out 7 days a week. And then someday they get pregnant or they get injured or whatever, and they can't work out for a couple months. They gain it back like crazy because their body is adapted to this super high input instead of realizing like, oh, I can eat full fat dairy again and I will be just fine as long as I also eat enough micronutrients and protein and fiber. Like wild. This is wild. Like now we've talked about this before, but like now I'm at a place where I maintain my health and fitness and a physique that I'm comfortable in at this point in my life. Easy 2,500 calories a day. Again, I'm strength training. I'm lifting very heavy. Don't compare yourself to me. But I used to barely eat 1,200 calories a day when I was at my lightest. So switching from if it fits your macros to whole foods and nutrient density, instead of buying a protein bar because it's high protein and low calories, reading the freaking ingredient list and looking for things that aren't additives for no reason, right? That has been a huge shift in both of our journeys, I think.
Yeah, no, huge. I'm actually working with a brand new client now, and she is struggling with that. And her husband has been great support in terms of, it was very typical, like initial starting of her husband, like, okay, she's starting this other thing, right? Like, I support you, I love you, but like a little bit of an eye roll right in the back. But like 3 weeks in or however many weeks we're in, he was like, wow, this is like really cool to see. And I'm actually really glad that she is giving you the same advice that I want to give you in terms of like eating more food and stop restricting and whatever. But she is currently struggling with, and we're working through this actively of, she eats a lot of like Quest bars, Quest protein chips, protein shakes all day because she's like, okay, I'm getting my protein. And it's like, hold on, like, let's eat some food, like, let's have fun. But she felt this pressure to eat very low calorie, high protein things. And she's like, she's terrified of like, you know, she eats only egg whites and she has a fat goal and she hits it, but she just hits it in not like the best way. So she's like, I'm giving her like little mini challenges of like, have an egg with breakfast, like a whole egg. And she's like doing these little things. And I didn't tell her, hey, stop eating the Quest chips. Like, whatever, right? They're bad. Like, I didn't tell her that. I'm like, let's just like have some fun. Like, let's eat some things that you haven't eaten before. And she's like, what? She literally messaged me. I was like, what about full fat yogurt? I'm like, get it. Like,
Please do. Please do.
Day. Yeah. So and like I was explaining to her, like, I don't eat full fat yogurt because I love peanut butter. I have peanut butter toast every day. I have a lot of avocado. So I get my fats from other sources. And I know just based on me and my intuitive eating, when I eat yogurt, that's one of my lower fat options. It doesn't mean I can't eat full fat. It's just the way
worth it for you is choosing the fats, and the peanut butters.
I would rather have avocado than full fat yogurt. That's my choice.
I think my physique changed, and I think there was a lot of influences in this. So I'll give them some shout outs, but I think it was along the way, a lot of people that I modeled after. So Emily Shoup is a good friend of ours. She's a yoga instructor. She got her master's degree in nutrition. And again, I'm looking at a nutritionist being like, what do you mean you eat full fat things and all this and whatever? Her and another registered dietitian, she has a podcast too. So her name is The Playful Dietitian, JJ. So JJ and Emily, kind of watching how they eat, I'm like, what if I make this shift? So during the phase of my training, when I started just focusing on strength and performance goals, I also shifted to like, I'm going to just not pay attention to macronutrients and really focus on adding real things. So I don't care that an avocado is a lot of calories. I'm going to add it to my smoothie in the morning because it has a lot of fiber, apparently. I'm going to add chia seeds and what's the other thing? Hemp hearts and like all these things that I know have a lot of nutrients, even though it adds up to a lot of calories with walnuts and all this stuff. What ends up happening is if you guys eat a lot of real food and less processed crap, your calories overall end up being lower just because you're full. So I think we ended up getting to the same place just with different methods because their clients are seeing results. And I'm like, how are they getting results? They're not even tracking. And it's like, oh, because they're eating less calories because they're full and they're getting a lot of nutrients and they feel really good doing it. So if we could combine these methods, hit your protein numbers, hit your fiber numbers, and get it mostly from whole food, you're going to feel phenomenal and you'll get physique results.
Yep. And that doesn't mean you can't have ice cream. It doesn't mean you can't eat 4 servings of Thai food in one sitting once in a while. Right? And that's
but most of the time, if you're getting most of your food from whole food, you're just going to thrive and you're going to feel really good. Same thing with protein. You mentioned your client with a lot of protein bars. I think we have a lot of clients like that where we have to shift their headspace. Same thing with like protein desserts. I've seen so many like fitness groups on Facebook where people are like, this is my healthy dessert. It's sugar-free Jell-O with Cool Whip on top and a protein scoop and this and that. And I'm like, bleh. Like if I want ice cream,
farm syrup. Oh my God.
If I want ice cream, I'll just have ice cream, but then I'll make all my other meals a little bit leaner and healthier so that I can have and fully enjoy my ice cream or my cheesecake. I'm not having I used to make this kind of stuff, guys. So I'm not judging you. I'm coming from a place of I also did it. But I remember I made like black bean brownies before because I was like, oh, nutrient dense desserts. And it's like, okay, or I could just like mostly eat healthy, not feel like I need a sugar fix at all hours of the day from artificial sweeteners and just have a real brownie every now and then.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And I think, it ties into just like diet culture in general. And I mean, I'll just call it out today because I'm unhinged anyway. But, I had a woman who was interested in our program and she told me that her doctor said she can't make any healthy lifestyle changes right now until she gets her thyroid checked. And I'm like, do you literally hear yourself? Like, you just said don't make healthy changes. Like, what? And you're taking a Hippocratic oath to take care of people, and this is your advice. Like, I told her, I'm like, give me his name. I'm reporting him. I'm calling, like, no one. That's insane. To, like, for one, she said she was afraid to lose him as a provider, and I said, not only did he instill fear in you out of not getting the treatment that you needed, if you made a decision that you felt was good for yourself, but also that's dumb, just straight up dumb advice. And
right. Like, you want to get really bad. You want to get really bad thyroid readings by not changing your lifestyle, just so that then you can get
calories and doesn't.
So then you can then be prescribed a thyroid medication, like, or we could actually work on your behaviors and improve your thyroid over time, and your doctor can validate that.
Hold on, keep those numbers where they are. I'll give you a prescription, and then everything will be fine, right? So it's wacky to me. And another example is I had a gal. She's still with us. She's absolutely just smashing life, but she came to us with a bigger weight loss goal. She wanted to lose around, 100 pounds, I think, and we started with strength training. We still had to reverse diet because she was not having a healthy relationship with food. She was heavily restricting during the week and just off the rails on the weekend. She got up to like 2,800 calories a day, or just something amazing, right? And she felt so good. Her steps were like 2,000 to 3,000 a day, right? She was very sedentary, and that was like a slow process. But she slowly increased those over time. She's strength training just like a boss 3 days a week. The scale didn't immediately go down in those first few. I mean, it did, just not as drastically as you would expect because
we're working on building up her maintenance calories and adapting her to healthier habits to support her through then a fat loss phase.
So she's obviously much further along than what I'm describing now. This is only a couple months in, but she had, quote, only, I'm putting in air quotes, lost X amount of pounds. Now, I know she lost more body fat than that because she was training really intentionally and building muscle, but because—
And losing inches. So we're looking at other data points.
Literally her pants were falling off of her every single check. And she's like, I got to buy more. I got to buy more. But the scale wasn't reflecting that initially, right? Like you would expect it to, because we're not focused on weight loss. We're focused on fat loss. Her doctor was like shoving semaglutide down her throat. Like, you're not losing fast enough. And I'm like, you just dismissed months of this chick busting her ass. And this is why diet culture is a problem. He was like 1,200 calories, semaglutide. And he's like, you'll lose it faster. You'll lose it faster. Dangling this carrot in her face. And she's fortunately like, and I would never tell her one way or the other. If she decided to do it, I would support her on it. But she advocated for herself and was like, I don't want that. I'm eating healthy. I'm lifting weights. I'm moving better than I ever have. She's a provider, and she's like, I'm taking better care of my patients. Like, I'm good where I'm at. And it's like, it's no wonder we have this mindset of depriving and feeling like weight loss has to be instant and fast and now and do whatever it takes. And you have to be miserable doing it. And it's like, no wonder. Like, no wonder people feel that way, because this is a person she should have trust in, that she had to advocate against. So anyway, all of that being said, diet culture, meaning eat less, move more, essentially, I think is kind of all encompassing for that, is what we have to get away from. And
understanding biofeedback markers that are also healthy, that have nothing to do with the scale. I feel like we keep coming back to these same couple topics, but like your energy, your libido, the fact that you aren't thinking about food 24/7 and it's not controlling your life anymore. The fact that you can go to a 4th of July party and have a hot dog and not feel guilt for the next 2 days. Like, those things are also wins, even though those aren't physique changes, right? You keep focusing on the actual health inputs. And again, that doesn't mean eat whatever you want all the time, but general holistic health. And I promise you, physique changes as a side effect of you becoming 100%. That healthier person.
Yeah. And also, like, this kind of ties into like all or nothing too, but also I just explained this, I think, without even like actually describing it, but all of those years where I was trying to like find my spot, right? Like find my middle ground. I was operating from a place of absolutely hating myself. No matter what that scale said or how low it went, I fucking hated myself because I was going about it the wrong way. I had the wrong motivations and I was looking for validation in all the wrong places. I mean, respectfully, if you compete and you feel like you can do it in a healthy way, I disagree with that. But if you feel like you can, more power to you. I was training for months, spending hours in the gym, struggling with an eating disorder to go on stage for maybe 40 seconds total and somebody to tell me you're not good enough, we're not rewarding you today. Like toxic, right? And I'm not obviously
let alone, and you're not even mentioning the physical unhealthy piece either.
Right.
Of every woman who is on there on stage that you're comparing yourself to in pictures, if that's a look that you're going for, are severely dehydrated. Usually they're on some sort of fat burning pill that's speeding up their heart rate in an unhealthy manner. They're not nourishing their body. They're timing their nutrients and cutting out carbs right before so that they look the most shriveled up and lean.
Girls passing out everywhere behind
so
stage, right?
It's not just the physical piece, it's also the mental health piece. And again, I know, like, I have one person, literally one person of all the people I've known who have competed, who does it in a healthy way. And she is like a national competitor who judges other things and stuff. Yeah. But again, she knows. You talk to her about it and she will tell you like, oh, no. It's a sport. It is a sport and I'm competing for a specific outcome. Yes. That is not where I think my clients should be from a health standpoint. And she is in her 50s. She's like 55 or 60 now. She's a baller. She looks in her off season, she looks like what any woman would dream of looking like. But during the leanest times, like she'll say the same thing of like, no. All the people who are good at this know that it's for the sport, not because it's healthy.
Right. And all of that, right? I'm looking for validation in the wrong places and I'm operating from a place of punishing myself and hating my body. Like I'm so heartbroken when I hear women get on the phone and tell me all these things about themselves that they hate. And I'm like, what do you love about yourself? Like, what can your body do? Like you just told me you lift 4 days a week and that you have an amazing career and that, you take your kids to sports 4 days a week. Sounds like your body's doing a lot for you and you're just treating it like shit in return, Like, I think we need to shift our perspective on that. And it takes time. And I'm not saying that you're not going to feel better or feel more confident when you lose weight. Like, it's okay to have aesthetic goals. I have them. We aim to maintain certain aesthetics, right? But we're coming from a place of loving our bodies and being really happy with all that it can do. And we're treating it accordingly in the gym. I am not doing treadmill sprints anymore at 7 days a week. I am not training for 2 hours when it's not even productive anyway. I'm doing it because I want to take care of myself and I want to be strong and live long and all of those things. So that's a huge mental shift too, that I think everyone should make tomorrow.
Yeah. And from the all or nothing standpoint too, we see it all the time with people who think they do everything right. And it's like, well, that's because you're all or nothing. Right. You're doing what you think is perfect for 4 weeks and then you're burnt out and then you do nothing for 2 months and then you complain that your physique doesn't change. And it's over and over where it's like, what if for 3 months you prove to me that you can just work out 3 days a week? And they're like, but I love 6 days a week. And I'm like, prove it to me for 3 months. Yeah. And then they're like, whoa,
and they're like, what do I do on the other
change?
Yeah.
They're like, I'm actually seeing change and it doesn't feel that hard. And I'm like, yeah, that like, if it feels like maybe you could do it for the rest of your life, it's probably what you should be doing. Yeah. Same goes for a diet. If you have to cut out all carbs and you're like, oh, I'm seeing great results. And I will ask somebody, do you think you can keep carbs out for the rest of your life? If you can, go for it, Mr. Carnivore Diet, go for it. But if that's not how you see your future, you're not going to be able to sustain these results. So I think letting go of the all or nothing mindset and just focusing really on consistency, focusing on balance during the hard seasons of life. So like, I can't tell you the amount of conversations. I actually had a conversation like this with one client who she's just overcame breast cancer treatment, was diagnosed during our coaching together, has made it through all of her treatments. We're on the other side of it. She's had reconstructive surgery, all the things. And another, actually, I'm going to give 2 client examples. Another one who had mold toxicity from her workplace. Both of them at times in the journey of coaching are like, I'm bummed because like we were seeing such good progress. And now because of this health thing, it's like I'm wasting money coaching. And I'm like, okay, well, let's zoom out and look at your journey during that quote unquote wasted time. And like both of them have done way more than they ever would have done before, because before they just would have done nothing. But instead we're focusing on food quality so that they can feel their best working through illnesses. They've overcome these illnesses and maintained all their weight loss from before they were diagnosed. There's so many wins, and they're like, whoa, I didn't think of it that way. Like, we zoomed out and literally wrote down, here's all of your inputs over the last year and a half. And they're like, wow, I can't believe that I did that and I maintained. Like, that's a sign of health, right? We're just looking at the wrong metrics because you are only, in the past, you've only associated a win with weight loss, right? You've maintained through all this stuff. Most people would just like fall off the wagon, so to speak, right? So that's also a win.
Yeah, no, I love that so much. And I agree, right? Like, if you can't maintain it long term, it doesn't matter. And I even say to women that I talk to on the phone, none of the results that you get in this program matter to me if you don't walk away feeling like you can live your life and be free and maintain your results and have a really just healthy relationship with yourself, with the scale, with your body, with food. And that's wildly underrated in my opinion. And I think too, just understanding that health goes so much further beyond food and workouts and the scale, because those are usually very short-sighted. And, we talk about this all the time in terms of coaching, but we do so much more than that. I think we often have to say to our clients, hey, we're not a therapist. We are not certified in this. I can give you my 2 cents here as a coach, and often as a friend, because there are friendships that happen. But, we wear a lot of hats because we care. And I actually had somebody ask me recently, and I was like, wow, I really appreciate you asking me that. She asked like what our roster capacities were and like, what does it really look like from a commitment standpoint for us, like for time, like in a week to one client? And I was like, I appreciate you asking that so much, because what a powerful question to ask a coach that you're looking to hire, because there have been coaches that I know I worked with that you're just a number. They're like, cool, you want to pay me low amount. I'm not going to give you much attention. I'll have 120 clients, whatever myself. And she genuinely cared about like the process and what we do and our communication and how open it is. And I thought that was a really cool question for somebody looking for a coach, and definitely not a topic I don't think up on that episode.
No, I think that's great. I mean, and those 2 clients I just referred to, I want to be clear, check in every single week, even on the hard weeks, and say like, okay, here's the roadblocks right now. What can we do? How can I meet you? We'll do 1 or 2 small things. So if you are hiding through the hard times and not checking in with your coach and not even opening the door for communication, you probably are wasting your money, right? Like, that's a whole nother topic. But if you are fully invested in, okay, I'm prioritizing my health, here's my roadblocks, what's our next step? And then as a coach, I say, okay, here's a couple options. What feels good for you in this life season?
Yeah.
After a year or 2, you're going to completely change your life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's great. And I feel like that kind of covered everything that we were referring to. I mean, I genuinely think we could talk about this a long time, and it's just really cool to have these conversations and be in the place that we're at. And it's like makes me happy because I know it's possible for people, but it also makes me sad about the people that so I feel like I need to make a disclaimer here, because I feel like Jess and I make a disclaimer for everything, but I want to make a disclaimer that we said a lot of different things, and some of those things I know, like that I experience and live daily now, at one point felt impossible to me and felt really unattainable. And I was like, there's just no way. I binge eat every day. Like I'm always going to have to track, or I'm always going to have to whatever. And it's like, that was 9 years in the making for me. And of course, our job in sharing this information and coaching women and sharing what we share on Instagram is to shorten that gap for everyone as much as we can, or for you not have to experience some of those things at all. But if it feels stressful or impossible or whatever, it's really, what we did was take one step at a time in the right direction, and you decide what that direction is. And I think that's really important, that your maturing in fitness doesn't have to look like mine, because we also didn't start at the same place. So,
but I think, can I summarize? I think that's great. So to summarize, because I think a lot of these things we talked about kind of fall into a couple categories.
Yeah.
One, maturing in fitness is not just following macros, or if it fits your macros, or even tracking at all does not define health. Maybe not tracking and just focusing on nutrients is healthy long term. The second thing, doing more or harder or sorer in the gym does not equate to effectiveness. You need to know what the inputs are that align best with the outcomes that you desire, and everybody's goals are different. So their inputs probably need to be unique to their goals. Doing consistency instead of all or nothing. So do what you can do on your hardest day, or whatever diet you think you can stick to for the rest of your life, not just what's going to get you the quick fix. And really focusing on movement patterns and mobility and health and feeling good over just physique, because we promise physique will come if you do all those things.
Yes, love it. And yeah, I actually did a training in the Facebook group a couple weeks ago. If you go to the top of our Facebook page, which is linked in our description, at the top of the page, we have a pinned post. Every single training that Jess and I have ever done in that group is titled and linked. So you can sift through those a little bit faster than sifting through the whole group. But I did a training called the 10 Tenets of Wellness, and it's not 10 that I made up. I was kind of regurgitating information, but really, really powerful in terms of really all encompassing like wellness and health, and just like making, like, it's really cool that that list of 10 can be whatever you want it to be, and like you make your version of it. So I think that's important. But yeah, I think that's all we have for this episode today. So we hope you guys enjoyed. We're always looking to hear your, thoughts and your, kind of what you learned about yourself from these episodes. So please always feel free to message us, Instagram, Facebook, wherever. We'd love to hear from you guys, and we will see you next time.
Peace.